Hi everyone, can everyone hear me, especially in the back? Do I speak loud enough? Perfect. Okay, so we'll be talking about access control vulnerabilities in GraphQL and REST API as well, and we'll take a specific example, and in this case we'll be talking about the Field Day dating app and how multiple access controls vulnerabilities can lead to a huge impact when combined. So we'll see in a second multiple such issues and what was the impact. First of all, I'd like to see a quick show of hands. How many of you are pen testers? Okay, quite a few. DevSecOps? Okay. Security managers, CISOs? Okay. And students? Okay. And other security roles? Okay. Okay. So quite a mix of everyone. I'll try to give a lot of information from all the areas. Okay, who am I? Senior pen tester at Forbridge. I also co-founded it. Accreditations in pen testing, DevSecOps, and GCP security. And past history, I've been pen testing, especially in the gambling and banking industry for the last 10 years. Okay, what is this talk about? So it is about the importance of access controls. My colleague Nitin touched upon access controls in an earlier talk, and we will go a little bit more on this topic. Let's see how often we find this issue in the pen tests that we do. So in OWASP Top 10 API security done in 2023, it was number one, and it is known as BOLA, Broken Object Level Authorization. And in OWASP Top 10 for web application done in 2021, it was also number one, known as Broken Access Controls. About Field Day, the dating app that I'll be talking about today. So what is it about? It's a dating app. In 2014, it was launched and known as Trender. Then in 2016, due to a naming conflict, Tinder Trender, they had to change their name, and they changed it to Field Day. It started as a Trender, just as an extra information. It was focused on threesomes, just like the name suggests. And then in 2016, when it renamed, it got more open, and it was used in dating. So it's just a dating app like Tinder, Bumble, where you can filter by distance, age, genders, more than 10 genders, couples, location. And then for premium users, you have multiple functionalities, extra functionalities. You can search by type of kink you're interested in, group scenarios, or the type of relationship you're interested in. And on Android, for example, it has more than 1 million downloads. So this is a short description about the Field Day application. So let's see how it looks like and what are the available functionalities that we can abuse and test for access controls. So we have the Discover Profiles menu, where you have pictures, biography, and what that person is interested in. We have the Who Liked You menu, and as a basic user, we just see the name and some blurred photos, but we cannot interact with liking them back or rejecting them. We also have the third menu, Messaging, where you can message a person or a group. And we have the fourth menu, My Profile menu, which is where you upload your photos and the description about yourself. So these are the functionalities that we have available to test. Now, what we found in this test for this application, so just to clarify, all the issues are fixed by the application. There is nothing left vulnerable. Just wanted to clarify this at the beginning. So the issues that we found was the first one in a subcategory of BOLA, Broken Object Property Level Authorization, where it discloses information. And then the rest of 7 issues are part of the BOLA category, where the access controls were missing or were front-end and could have been bypassable. So let's take them one by one and see the exact access controls that were missing. 1 second, I got nervous. So I started testing this application, and I entered the the second menu as a basic user. As you can see, everything is blurred and you just see the name. So as a basic user, you just have access to see the name of the person who liked you and the blurred photos that you can see. As a premium user, you can see all these functionalities and access the profile because you have paid for it. However, if we use a tool such as Burp, which is very popular in the pen testing industry, and we go to this menu, who liked us, then we will, the mobile app will make a request to the server, which is called, the operation name is called likes query. Sorry for the quality of the photo. And this likes query will return the response with all the people that liked us. And in this case, it was a woman called Sam that liked us. It tells us the distance, how far she is from us, the age. So it literally tells us the whole information about this woman that liked us called Sam. Her sexuality, everything that a premium user gets. And we don't even pay for this application. So as a basic user, you can get this information, even though it is not shown in the mobile application, in the front end. In addition, it shows us in the response an important parameter, which is called here stream user ID. And this stream user ID will use it in the next vulnerability to read that person's message. So instead of using read person message /1, we will use this stream user ID, which is unique per user. So let's see how we can read other people's messages. We go to discover profiles, we intercept a request, and we choose the victim that we want to read that person's messages, because we have each person has its own stream user ID. So we pick one from our victim, then we go to messages, and we will have an endpoint /channels, and here is where we will add the stream user ID of that victim in order to read their messages. And in this case, we added the stream user ID of the user Sam, and we already see their messages. In this case, we see a message, "Hi Chloe," which comes from Sam, and if we search in this response for text, we will see that there are 92 messages belonging to user Sam. And this is one of them. So this is how we read other people's messages using that unique stream user ID value, which is unique to each user. Now, this is an interesting issue. Unauthenticated access to other people's attachments from their chats. So we read other people's chats, and we see at one point attachments in those between those messages. So how can we get them preferably unauthenticated? In this application, you can upload photos and videos. The photos can be uploaded either replayable or time limited, 15 seconds maximum. And the videos can be, again, replayable and play only once. What we could have done as an attacker, we could have gotten all of them, all the versions, unauthenticated. No matter if it's photo, video, time limited, or play only once. And I will show you in a second how. So this is how the end result would look like. So let's say we upload the photo. It doesn't matter if it's time limited or not. First, it gets uploaded, and it will be available from an endpoint like this, the first one. And then we could have gotten authenticated from a similar endpoint, but the sender and the receiver grid will be here. All we need is the sender and the receiver grid, and this is the unique attachment ID of the photo. So let's try to reproduce it and see how it's possible to get them. So in the end, these 3 endpoints, we will have 3 chances to get them where the photo will be available. And this one is the most important because we'll get it from here unauthenticated. So let's try to reproduce this issue. And first we will upload the normal replayable photo. It will be a request to field D. We will get some values, some credentials, public ID. Then the actual upload will happen to cloudinary.com. And then we will get back an attachment ID, which represents the ID, the unique ID of the photo. And this unique ID will be uploaded in the attachment, will be uploaded as an attachment in the messages. So let's read the messages again as an attacker. We put the stream user ID and we read that person's messages. We will see an attachment section which contains the attachment, the unique attachment ID specific to this photo. So in order to access this photo now, we will go to the endpoint /cdn/chat attachments /x and / the attachment ID that we are just reading as an attacker in this messages. So we just paste it here and we have access to this photo as a different user. So we are still authenticated, but it doesn't matter. It seems they do not check that we are authenticated as a different user. We still have access to someone's private photo. And now the question is, okay, we have access to this photo. Can we get it unauthenticated? And the question is, yes. There is an endpoint where actually it's the same endpoint, we just add v1 in front of it. And this v1, it will return us the URL where the photo is stored on cloudinary.com. And from this, we just copy the URL and we'll have access to it unauthenticated. So this is how we can get the photo unauthenticated, the replayable ones. The ones which is time limited and theoretically the photo deletes itself, there are two small differences in reproducing this attack compared to this earlier that I just mentioned. First one, we will send an extra parameter which will say that the photo will be available just 15 seconds, afterwards it deletes itself. And then we will need the profile ID of the sender, the one who sent the photo, and also the receiver, the one who received it. Again, we upload the photo. We will receive a unique attachment ID for this photo as well. We read the messages of the victim in order to find this attachment ID because we don't know it and it's quite hard to guess. And then we will try to get the receiver ID and the sender ID in order to use it in the link together with the attachment ID. And then this is how it looks for the sender when he sends the timed photo, and this is how it looks like for the receiver that receives the photo. And once the receiver sees the photo, which is time limited, then it will say photo expired. So once the photo is expired, you cannot access it anymore from the third link, which would be this one, but you can still access it from the second link, which is this one, so contains the sender GUID, or you can access it unauthenticated. So we again try to access it unauthenticated. We add v1 in front of the endpoint. It returns us the URL where the photo was published unauthenticated, because what they did was deleted the photo, but only in one instance out of the 3 instances available. So this was another access control issue. And then, yes, this was the URL. So if we go to the URL without being authenticated, everyone will have access to it. Okay, now uploading a video is similar with the similar issue. The below request, so we go to the message, we upload the video, and the below request will be made to the origin streamioapi.com, and it returns us the URL where the video is available from, which is streamiocdn.com. We again, the URL will be passed in the chat as well, so will be published in the chat. We try to, this is how it looks like, the ID, the URL, the duration, and that is replayable, a replayable video. So we again try to read the message of the victim, and we see this section, attachments, type video, with the URL where the video is available. We copy that URL, and we will have to replace this section /who0026 for the ampersand sign in order to be a valid URL. And then in the browser, we will have access unauthenticated to the video, which was shared in the private chat. And it is similar for the video that deletes itself. Again, we enter the app, we select that the video will be playable only once. This request will be done again to streamioapi.com. It will be put in the chat, and this parameter replay mode will say that it will be view only once. We read the victim's chat. We again get the URL, replace the special character for ampersand here, and we will get access to the video unauthenticated. So we can see the video that should be playable only once, unauthenticated as well. And this is how it looks from the application before and after the receiver sees the video. So it says tap to view, and then it says video expired. So you cannot click it anymore from the mobile app to see it again. But as an attacker, you can see it unauthenticated, and the victim or the sender will have no knowledge that his video is still public on the internet for everyone to see. Okay, what other issues did we discover regarding access controls? We can delete, recover, and edit other people's messages. In order to do that, we will need the unique message ID value of the message that we want to recover. So we can read other people's messages, and it's easy to get this message ID value from those chats. This is the vulnerable endpoint messages/message ID with the methods delete and put. So to reproduce the issue, we use again burp. We intercept the request where we leave a message to someone, and we leave a valid message. Got any plans tomorrow? We see that it was posted in the response, and it has the message ID 8AD, ending in 8AD. Then we delete this message with this unique ID 8AD, and we receive a response 200 OK, showing the message and the ID. So now let's read the chat as an attacker. We connect and we get a different authorization token. We're trying to read the chat of the victim, and we see that this message 8AD, the message was deleted. So now let's try to apply this method delete again on this 8AD message ID, and as an attacker, we get the original message back. So this is how we recover it. We just apply a second time the delete method on that message ID. And now to edit it, we post a message to someone. My number is 123. It was posted, and we see the ID 7E2. As an attacker, again, we read the messages to that victim, and we see that my phone number is 123. We memorize the message ID 7E2. The victim receives a notification, my phone number is 123. This is how it looks like. And then, as an attacker, we modify the message to, hey, my phone number is 456. and we apply the same message ID 72 here, and the response will be updated. So now when the victim checks the mobile phone, it will show my number is 456, and it shows that it is edited, but it doesn't say by who was edited. So the victim will have no knowledge that this was modified by someone else, by an attacker, for example. Okay. Number 5, issue number 5, update someone else's profile information. So we can update everyone's profile information, including name, sexuality, age, etc. The endpoint is /GraphQL and the operation name is profile update. For example, we go and update our own profile ID. We have an extra parameter profile ID. And once I saw it, the next question is, why do you need my profile ID? You already know who I'm authenticated as. Why is this extra parameter needed? So I modified it to the profile ID of my victim, gave a testing value ABCD, and I've got back a 200 OK saying that the profile ID of the victim was updated. So this is another issue where access controls were not implemented, and it worked. Issue number 6, get a like from any user profile. So in this issue, you could send likes from profile number 2 to profile number 3 while being logged in as profile number 1. So this was an interesting issue. The operation name is profile like in /GraphQL endpoint. So let's see how it works. So let's send a normal like. I'm authenticated as user 29C, as you can see here, and I send a like from my own profile 29C to a profile 91F, and it's sent. So it's normal me liking another profile. Then I'm thinking, how about if I reverse the values and I say that I want 91F to like me, 29C, and I get an error message which says you cannot like a profile you own, which makes sense. That's kind of an okay validation. But then you're thinking, how about if I create a third profile and I say, hey, I want that profile to like me. So from user account 2 to user account 3. And it worked. So I was logged as user account 1, and I told, I want user account 2 to like user account 3. And it worked. I got back a 200 OK. So let's see now who did just like me. So let's query that profile that just like me, and we can see that I've made a person of 26 years old, which was active at that time, and the name, imaginary name was Annie, to like me. And because I have a premium account and I can see who liked me, I can see, indeed, it worked. Here's Annie, 26 years old, that liked my profile. So that was an interesting issue where, again, access controls were not implemented. Let's see another vulnerability with access controls missing, and that is send messages in other people's chats. So we discovered that we can send messages to other people's chats, even though we are not participant in that chat. And this is the vulnerable endpoint, /channel /messaging /channel ID /message with the method post. And here we use the previous vulnerability to read people's messages to find this unique channel ID where you want to add your message. And we find a channel ID here ending in 0BD, and we send a message to this channel ID 0BD, hello from the attacker. We see it's 201 OK created, and the victim will receive a notification showing this message, hello from the attacker. So this channel is between two users, D and Bogdan. Here is D, and the sender, the other participant, was called Bogdan. But it shows in the notification that this is the name of the attacker, B. So at least you get a notification that the name is that of an attacker. However, in this app, the names are imaginary, so you can give yourself any name you want. They are not unique, so you can even give yourself the name of the victim. It doesn't matter. So you can send messages in other people's chats without any issue. And the last issue on access controls, view other people's matches. So we can check who did other people match with and their full profile information, from name to age, photos, gender, sexuality, status, date of birth, everything. So the operation name is chatlist query, again in a /GraphQL endpoint. We make a request to query the victim profile ID for this chatlist query operation, and it will return us all the matches that profile has with, in this example with user B. So this was another example of access controls missing. What are the remediation? So for the developers to implement authorization checks, this should be between users, but also they should be implemented on the back end and not front end. Because in some of the cases here, the security controls were on the front end and not showing you the response, but you were still getting the response in the burp tool, just that not displayed in the mobile app. Then the authorization check should be implemented for each user level. In this case, we had basic user and premium user, and as a basic user, you could access premium level user functionality. That is another access control missing. And for DevSecOps people, you could integrate security tools in your CI/CD pipeline, but this will be challenging to find such security issues because you will have lots of GUIDs, and these security tools usually cannot test for access controls because all the GUIDs are kind of identical. They look the same. How do you know which GUID is valid and which GUID should not be valid or belongs to a different user? So in this case, it's a bit tricky to implement such a tool. And then for CISO to do data mapping and identify all the personal data that is being collected, because otherwise you might risk a hefty fine. In one example, Uber was fined almost 300 million euros for transferring driving license cards, acts from European drivers to US headquarters and breaching GDPR. So data mapping is important as well. How did the remediation process work? Users of the app were not very happy with it. It took more than 5 months, almost 6 months, for all these access controls to be implemented. Until after 6 months, we published the blog post, and things were better. All the issues have been remediated, but users were not quite happy for the time it took for such issues. To see the full article, you can see it on our Forbridge blog post. There is also the Guardian article, which talks about this and potential bigger implications from a law standpoint of view. And then the slides, I'll publish them if anyone is interested on our GitHub. And then a short 3-minute video to summarize in case anyone fell asleep. I'm sorry for being so lacking in energy. Hopefully this guy will do a better explanation than me.
Hello, I put one foot in front of the other, but stuff still happens. So what's up? Polyamory is all the rage these days, but what if your data was polyamorous? Digging at field is trying to do something different. They want to give you more options to dial in exactly what you're looking for. And they also exposed all of your information to everybody, all of you. Academy I just whoa! I want to preface this by saying that Field now claims they have already solved all of these problems. But let's talk about what happened. Internet security firm Fortbridge did a test of Field's services and alerted Field that, hey, dog, anyone can basically do anything without even needing to hack your account. These are the things they were able to do just by opening your product. They were able to view photos that they weren't supposed to be able to see. They could read, edit, and delete other people's messages. They could send messages in other users' chats. They could edit other people's profiles. And they could also view other people's matches. And that's not the exhaustive list. So how did they do this? Did they hack into the mainframe? Did they, steal the CEO's thumbprint to get past biometric security? No, they just kind of looked at the data. Buckle up, boyos. We're gonna get nerdy with it. It's time for an education. When an app interfaces with a server, it uses a thing called an API. Basically, Field's API was hella fucked. The researchers looked at the data that was being sent to their app and found that their app was loading data that they weren't supposed to have access to for the purposes of showing them that they don't have access to the data. Like, here's a person's picture, they're blurred. You're supposed to have to, match with them or subscribe or whatever before you can actually see the photo. But they sent the photo to your phone and then blurred it on your phone, so you actually have that data. Now, the average user isn't going to just randomly stumble upon this, but a bad actor wouldn't have to do a whole lot to get that information. But what's worse is they started then pushing back on the API, saying, hey, API, I swear I'm this other user. What can you do for me? And the API was like, oh, baby. Oh, baby. I do it all. So yeah, they were able to pretend that they were the app and say, hey, server, I'm that person. Let me edit their profile. And the server was like, yeah, sure, that makes sense to me. Yeah, you absolutely are them. Consider this metaphor. You walk into a doctor's office and walk straight to the front desk and say, I'm John Wyman. I want my medical records. And they're like, okay, John Wyman, here you go. Here's your medical records. And then without breaking eye contact, you're like, I'm Lisa Lisaman. Also, give me my medical records. And we're like, absolutely, Lisa Lisaman, here you go. Here's your medical records. We're like, okay, cool. Neat. Field was alerted of these vulnerabilities back in March, and they didn't fully tackle all of them until August, apparently. The blog post came out just last week. So hey.
Hopefully he did a better explanation than I did in a funnier way. I don't know who this guy is, but he does an amazing job summarizing. For other similar research on web apps API and phishing, you can check on our website at Forbridge. And now a short, quick session of Q&A in case there are any. Yeah, sure.
In cases like this, where let's say you are a security company, so you would have more idea about this. If a normal bug hunter finds these findings, where photos that are just meant to be one views are being saved on a server, is that not a privacy law issue as well? Because those pictures were not supposed to be saved. It was just a one view thing.
That is a good question, and I would say yes, you are right.
But then, what are you as a company, as a bug hunter, supposed to do? Just report it to the company and then just shut your mouth about it, I guess?
That's what we did.
Yes.
We reported it to the company, and from that point, it was on them to remediate the issue. But yeah, that's a very good topic to talk about, the privacy one and the law. Yes?
Did you try cross-site scripting?
No. In this case, we were focused only on access controls and how much damage can we do with just one category of issues. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. Yes?
So when you provided your findings back to the company, did the company in question retrospectively go back through their logging to see if they could observe the interactions that you took on the API to then determine if a bad actor had done the same prior to you providing the findings?
That's a great question. I believe they have made a public statement on that, maybe even in the Guardian article. I have to go back and check. We did not ask that, but they might have done it public in that article from the Guardian, and they might have said something like, we do not have the logs before a certain period of time. So, yes, I do not know exactly. Very good question. Yes?
I was just wondering, like, of all the apps you test, like, what percentage of apps have these basic kind of...
So this is, the access controls is number one in terms of popularity, and it is probably the most often that we find. Okay. So that's kind of it. It's probably the most one that we find.
Like if, out of, say, 10 apps, how many might be affected? Like 4 or 5? Or...
Around that.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have financial apps on my phone, and that's really worrying with this talk in the context. I was wondering for financial apps like Revolut, Trade Republic, and things like that, do they have to go through any extra steps to be made public on a Play Store, for example, before they're allowed to be downloaded by customers? What I mean is, like, is there any extra precautions taken or security checks before they're available? So that sort of thing doesn't happen with Revolut, for example.
That's a good question. It depends on the company to have their own security testing department. Usually the financial companies, because they handle data, they are obliged to have such tests per year done, at least one, because otherwise you get fined. So it also depends on the compliance policy in your country. For example, if you're Singapore, you might be obliged to do a specific number of times. If you're in a different country, you might not even be obliged. But yes, it depends on the company. Yes, Nitin.
Yes, I have lots of questions, but I'm going to relate to one presenting. And before that, also like to answer. So again, for Revolut, I think you have for the platform, it's also going to be vulnerabilities that you can attack yourself to prevent. So the question is, so you have, when we're talking about security best practices, at least with respect to GraphQL, you have generally people say enforce access control operations at the resolver level, but I think you can still override it using HTTP headers, etc. So, like the example you showed, where you can modify the data, etc. Are there, like, have you come across scenarios where you could potentially override these resolvers from a different perspective, let's say not using HTTP headers, but in different mechanisms?
To overwrite the same data to a different method, not HTTP related?
Yeah, instead of HTTP, like, have you come across any other?
Good question, no. But that's an interesting one. You might make me look now at different ways to check, but usually we are focused on HTTP, HTTPS pen testing, so web applications, mobile. I'll have to think of a different creative way how to override the data from a different service perspective. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, can you give us a level of effort that I guess went into producing something like this? Would it be a typical, like a normal pen test required of effort, or was it something special in this case?
It was not something special in this case. It was something special in terms of doing it outside the work, so it took a little bit longer because I was working, so this is kind of a side project. You just do it when you have time. So it takes a lot longer because today you're available 1 hour, tomorrow you're not. Then in 2 days you're available 3 hours, then you're not for the whole week. So it was slightly different. And it takes a bit longer, if this is what you're asking, yes. Did someone... Oh, yes, sure.
Well, first of all, phenomenal presentation.
Thank you.
I want to get the slides.
Sure.
Sorry, I would like to. First of all, just to answer your question on the app, probably scared about the users here. It's not their job. It's not Google or Apple's job to stop people who upload a bad app, because anybody can upload an app. Everybody who makes the code can upload an app. That's why you need to prepare something else to download. The biggest ones, like both Apple and Google Play, are free antivirus. So people go searching for antivirus for free, and they get like a dirty app. Google and Apple do regularly go through the list, and they take out as many as the order they have. But again, it's not their job. They have to have one there. So it's just to be very careful. And yeah, I was just going to say, like, what's the evolution of? I mean, what you're doing looks phenomenal. Like, really need to dig into this before see how it works. Or how do you see the evolution?
In this case, the issues were fixed. It took them 6 months. I do not know what's the status from this point onwards regarding security. If they added or increased their security team. I do not know how developed is their security team because I don't have visibility. Probably it was not that big. Taking into consideration it took so long. So what is the current status in terms of features and new features of the app being developed? I do not know how much testing was adopted. Hopefully, for the benefit of the users, hopefully it was adopted.
I think it's phenomenal. You scared it.
Sure.
Did you find out, like, were they in a rush to get it to market? Like, there was some serious oversights and downsides, as you said, on the client side.
All I know is that it was a startup in 2014 when they started. They grew, but they might have not focused on security, and they might have been focused on, let's say, growing.
Yeah. Very interesting. Great talk, so.
Yeah.